Okay, so welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 637 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. And in this episode, it's part 3 of our Yankees season preview. We did the first two parts about a couple of weeks ago. We had Dom Randazzo on for part 1. And then he's a big-time Yankees fan. Then we had another big-time Yankees fan, Rob Dobeck, on for part 2 of our season preview. And that was about 2 weeks ago. And in this episode, we had a friend of the show who's been on the show a few times already. He comes on usually the beginning of the season, middle of the season, end of the season. Greg Gill from Yankee Crazy Podcast. Go check out that podcast on Apple and Spotify. He joined us to also preview the upcoming 2024 season for the Yankees. So part 3 is this episode coming up in a few minutes. So hope you guys enjoy it. But let's first get to our intro. We'll get to our trivia, and then we'll get to the episode, the segment of this episode where we discuss the upcoming year with Greg Gill from Yankee Crazy Pod. So let's get to it. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for 3. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball. Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding.
That is
It's over. Don't you regret not coming to the net? Don't you regret not coming to the net? Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right, welcome to the show, episode 637 of the podcast, BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. I'm your host, RJ, and welcome to the podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Again, Yanks season preview part 3. We had part 1 and 2 dropped about 2 weeks ago, where Yankees fans Dom and Rob joined us to talk about the upcoming season then. And in this episode, sorry this one's coming out a little later, but couldn't get to recording it until today, which is Saturday, March 2nd. Yeah. So we should have this out the same night. So we're having Greg Gill join us here on the podcast to talk about the upcoming season. Greg has been on the show a number of times already. He's from Yankee Crazy Podcast. Go check out his podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, I believe, either or. It's audio only, and he does a great job covering the Yankees as well. He gets on there every couple of months and does a hell of a job. He's very funny. He's very detailed with his analysis. He does a really good job bringing up good points. So check out Yankee Crazy Podcast on Apple and Spotify if you have not yet. But we are talking about the Yankees' upcoming season in this show. And yeah, basically everything we've discussed already, just getting a different viewpoint from Greg. Yankees are a few games into their into their spring training. Certain guys look good. We see Carlos Rodon worked on his arsenal over the winter, so I want to see how that new cutter looks as he continues to throw it more. I personally would like him to go to his back pocket more and use that changeup just to give hitters a different direction, because the cutter does go the same way as his slider, obviously. But yeah, I mean, if he was to throw a changeup, that's something going away from the right-handed hitter, or in to the left-handed hitter. So I would love for him to lean into that more. Maybe that's something Matt Blake can work on, but it is nice to see him add the cutter. It's interesting, I would say. Another storyline I've been following closely, Anthony Volpe. Obviously, over the winter, he's worked on retooling his swing a little bit. It seems like it's more level. Now, I watched him the other night, and his first at-bat, he still had that uphill swing, but the second at-bat where he doubled or tripled maybe even, much more level. And today, same thing. He had a couple of nice base hits, same thing, level swing. So it's going to come down to consistent mechanics, muscle memory with Anthony Volpe, getting down that swing, honing his craft to make sure that swing is less of an uppercut, less about launch angle, and more level. There's nothing wrong with launch angle. There's nothing wrong with exit velo, but when you're a 5'9", $180 kid, you should be emphasizing other things, especially as a young player. Line drives, he could be a doubles machine. He could be a guy who hits 5 triples, 6 triples, 7 triples a year with his speed. If he focuses on just making contact on 2 strike counts, and sacrificing hitting the ball in the air or a home run for a ground ball because he's got the speed to beat it out. I know that's kind of the cardinal sin of modern day analytics is hitting ground balls, but with a guy like Volpe who's got that speed, he can stretch a ground ball to the left side of the infield into a base hit. He's a guy who I don't mind focusing on contact because of the size, because of his stature, and the type of player he could become. So that's something I'm focusing on, how that swing is going to look. And then really just the health of everybody else. Juan Soto looks amazing. So we talk about it. We go around the diamond. We hit on all the points that we hit on in the first 2 parts, just again from a different perspective. So with that said, let's get to our trivia as soon as we return from our first break here on BD4. And then we'll get to our trivia and get to the segment of the show where Greg from Yankee Crazy Podcast joins us. Be right back, though, in just a few seconds.
Hey there. Thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast, episode 637. Let's get to our trivia, and then as soon as we wrap up our trivia, we'll get to the segment of the show where Greg joins us to talk Yankees. So let's wrap this part up with our trivia. All right, so in this episode 637 of the podcast, our trivia question of the day is: 4 Yankees pitchers led the American League in ERA in the 1950s. Name 2 of them. All right, 4 Yankee pitchers led the American League in ERA in the 1950s. Name 2 of them. All right, so let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I'll give you a shout out in the next episode in front of all 2 of our followers, of our listeners. So appreciate you tuning in, though. With that said, let's get to the part of this episode where Greg from Yankee Crazy Podcast joins us to talk Yankees. Let's get to that in just a few moments.
If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio 69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. How you been? All right.
Good. How about you?
Good, man. I'm good. Let me you can hear me everything's good?
Yeah, it's perfect on my end. I can hear you.
Yeah,
See
let me set this to the side. All right. What's up, Greg?
Oh man. Waiting for the real season to begin.
Dude.
Right? I haven't even watched any spring training, and I know we talked about how it's like the first televised game is like spring training. It's like, oh, I can't wait, but I haven't seen my first spring training game yet. So
I watched a couple of at-bats last night, and then I was like, all right, I'm kind of tired of it. But I'm thrilled. I just keep thinking of like, I see these clips of Juan Soto hitting extra base hits already. I'm like, Jesus, this is gonna be fun. So I'm thrilled, dude.
Yeah, definitely. I was on the phone with my mom, and she was actually watching the game, and I was out, and she's like, I think Soto just hit a home run, and then Rizzo got up, and he had hit a grand slam last night.
Yeah.
She was like, she's like, this is a good luck. It's a good luck charm. So yeah, I'm fired up, dude. I can't wait for the real season to begin.
Oh, so excited. Yeah, dude. I guess, we'll do the usual. We'll start with your thoughts on like the off season. Obviously I spoken to you a bunch about this, but like for the people listening, just give us your overall opinion on Cashman's off season. You got guys going out like Bader, Brito, Vasquez, Higgy, King, Middleton, Montes, Severino, all those guys coming out, coming in, Stroman, Soto, Verdugo, Grisham, couple relievers from LA. And just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it was, all those names you just rattled off. I feel like there was a lot of pluses for us and good minuses. Michael King, you had to give him up for Soto, so I can't complain about that. He would have been nice to have, obviously. The other guy, Wandy Peralta, lost him. Those are probably the two guys, I think, unless I'm missing someone, where I'm like, oh, that's too bad. They would have been great to have on this roster. But Juan Soto, Verdugo, who I think is going to be he's going to be an asset for the team. I really have good feelings about him. Let's see. Who else did you rattle off that we got back? We got that guy Grisham. Also in that deal. Don't know a lot about him. I guess he's the fourth outfielder, fifth outfielder, whatever you want to call him. Who else? Just those two alone, the first two, having Verdugo and Soto, adding them to the roster is fantastic. And Stroman. Stroman, I think, is he's interesting. He had a great first half, and then he kind of faded it at the second, but he seems fired up to be a Yankee, and I like it. He's one of those guys who a lot of people don't like, and I love having those guys on the Yankees. So we kind of get back to being the evil empire. So I'm excited. I think Cashman did a really good job. It'd be nice to have Blake Snell, but I know with the whole taxes and pretty much every dollar you pay him, you're paying $2 to the league. So I understand that from a business, but as a fan, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm a $500 million payroll. If I'm celebrating in October with the World Series, what the hell do I care?
That's me. That's me in a nutshell. Fucking spend everything you got to spend. I don't care. But yeah, I agree, dude. It's a good off season. You just added a 25-year-old megastar. So you can't complain. Sure, I would love Snell. Maybe at the deadline they do something like they go after
Right.
Bieber or Cease or someone like that. So we'll see. But I guess I want to start before we go around the diamond. We're going to do that in a second. Just your overall thoughts on the lineup heading into the season. I am very good with it. I think they added some lefty righty balance that we talked about.
Yeah.
A good balance of youth and veterans. And we've got a couple of keys and X factors in there too. So your overall thoughts on the lineup as a whole before we dive into the specifics.
Yeah, I am excited by that because I have always loved that lefty righty combo. And now you put in one of the best lefties in Juan Soto and Verdugo too. So there's two lefties you added, which they, hindsight should have been adding lefties over the years in Yankee Stadium, which A-Rod pointed out, I think, on a Sunday Night Baseball one time, and then everybody latched onto that. But it's true. You're in that stadium, you've got lefties. I mean, you have such a heavy righty lineup. It's great to get back to that balance in the lineup. And from what I've what you hear, because believe it or not, I've never pitched in Major League Baseball, but they say that, going from a righty to a lefty as a pitcher is a little adjustment each time. So you love that, especially late in the game where they're going to bring in a lefty or a righty to face some guys, and having that balance is going to help too. So I love it. That lineup right now, I feel, is really balanced. Right. And I'm excited. This is one of the first years, and I know Juan Soto is the big reason why I am so excited about this lineup, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for it.
I share the same sentiments, man. All right. So do you want to go? We'll start at catcher. I guess we could start at catcher and we'll go around the diamond, just talking about how we think each of these positions will fare for the Yankees this year. The catching spot's interesting right now because, you're kind of going into it open-ended. It seems like it's going to be Wells and Trevino getting the favorite two spots, but you never know. With Ben Rorfed, he did a really good job down the stretch catching Garrett Cole to help secure that Cy Young. You got Jose Trevino, who's the veteran. He's obviously got familiarity with the staff. He's worked well with them. And he's a great defensive catcher. And then you got this kid, Austin Wells, who came up in September last year, granted small sample size, but he's young. He's got the upside. He's been talked about a lot, and he's a lefty bat. So, and I thought he held his own defensively too. So I am curious to hear your thoughts about the catching spot real quick. And, I personally would love to see, at the very least, Austin Wells get a platoon role where he's going to get the majority of the reps if he was to bat against right-handed pitching. I think that would be a good idea, but I would like to hear what you think is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would love to see Wells get the majority of the playing time. And, statistically in the league, more righties, he being a lefty, I want to see him get more reps because he's had a lot of hype. They talk about him being a great hitter, and he turned it on at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I love that. I like Trevino. Him coming back, actually, he's what's his injury now? He came into camp with an injury.
His calf.
Yeah. So I have not heard the latest. You might know. Is he making the opening day roster, or does he need more time than that?
Yeah. Trevino, I think, is expected to be ready in like a week or two. So
yeah. Okay. So those two guys right there, I feel really confident with. Both, like you said, Wells has handled the pitchers well at the end of the season last year in a small sample size, but he seems like he has that maturity to be able to handle that, and having the offense, the hopes that there's the offense is going to continue as an MLBer is great. Trevino being hurt last year, and then them coming out with that much later. Because early in the season, he slumped. And meanwhile, the year before, he was like Mr. Clutch.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, did he just have a drop off? So I guess in a way, him being injured last year was a good sign. And I've got a lot of confidence with those two guys at the catcher position for handling the pitchers, and Wells being a better offensive player, but still having Trevino as somebody who contributes on the offensive end.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think it's a perfect idea to just go with the veteran, and you also have a nice young rookie coming up. It's a really good blend. First base is obviously it's Anthony Rizzo right now. Hit a couple homers last night, one grand slam. You're hoping that he can rebound from the concussion that he had last year. Before he had the injury, when he ran into Tatis, he was having a career year. But then he ran into Tatis and he had the head injury and he didn't know, he couldn't see. He was saying he was dizzy, waking up dizzy. So I'm hoping that was it, and we're putting that in the past and that he's healthy. He's got this is a walk year for him because he does have the option coming up. So you have options to do if he's not hitting and it's like late July, early August, he is expiring, and you have other guys that can fill in. DJ can slide over. There are first basemen on the market also expiring. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on Anthony Rizzo going into 2024.
Yeah, this in spring training, obviously it's spring training, doesn't really mean anything, but just the signs of him hitting homers and coming in and saying he's feeling really well is promising. And I didn't even know he was having a career year last year before the injury. I know he was doing well, and it's a shame having that drop off, and it's a shame that it wasn't even diagnosed. So we won't even get into that. Again, another guy that I have a lot of confidence in, great clubhouse guy. Everybody likes Rizzo on the team, and he gives that, there's a lot of veterans on the team, but I just think he's, he's one of those guys that from what you hear is great in the clubhouse, great to have around in whether it's talking to guys about defense, talking to guys about offense. So I am excited. And in a walk year, he wants to probably come back to New York. Supposedly, from what you hear, he really likes it here. So, I want to see him produce really well. And he's like, I don't know what he is, 33, 34. So, I could see if he's got a really productive year, another 2-year deal like this one, bring him back. Obviously, as long as he's productive, but I feel good about Rizzo. And then, like you said, having DJ to slot over there to, give him a day here and there. It's great. I think it works really well. But, this'll be a telling season to see what he does. But I don't know. Maybe I just have that spring training optimism on everybody. But I'm feeling hopeful.
No, I think, you know what? Somebody brought up a good point the other day I saw online, that the Yankees having 7 guys on walk years could be a good thing because they could be all like really motivated to get their money.
Yeah.
That could be a good thing for them. And another guy that is in a walk year is Gleyber Torres. We go to second base. He was one of the few Yankees who had a productive 2023. When Judge went down, he became their best guy. He is also entering a walk year. There's been talks of, will the Yankees let him walk? Will they extend him? Cashman kind of said he is our second baseman for this year, kind of indicating that he's going to have to prove it. So I'm interested to see what happens with Gleyber this year. I want to know your thoughts there.
Yeah, Gleyber, another interesting guy. I have bashed him a lot in the past. I've been like, get rid of him. I can't take Gleyber anymore. Those dumb mistakes he makes, whether it's on the base paths or being too lackadaisical. But he had a great offensive year last year. If he wasn't on the team last year, we would have done even worse. Which is, it was a bad season anyway. But he actually was very productive. And I think if he can just get his mindset right and stop making the stupid base running errors, And if he's productive, I could see them approaching him. Again, I don't know who is available as a second baseman in free agency after this season, but I could see the Yankees, if Gleyber is having a really solid season, of offering him a contract mid-season and saying, I guess it's not a true extension because he's on a rookie deal, but I could see them working something out with him to keep him here for another, what is he, 27, 28? Yeah. And he might, I think he likes New York from what you hear. So I could see him saying, yeah, all right, I'll sign for, a team friendly, not team friendly deal. He'll get his money, but something good enough where it doesn't break the bank and keeps him in New York and keeps stability there. But I think he's got to start off the season being solid with offense, defense, and stop these damn base running errors.
Yeah, that's just something that's gotta be the case always with Gleyber. We're gonna have to learn to live with that. But yeah, it's shortstop is gonna be fun. I'm very, very curious to see what we're getting out of Anthony Volpe this year. He had a very up and down rookie season. He had some good spots where he won the Gold Glove, whether or not that was there's question about whether he should have, but he won the Gold Glove. He had a 2020 season. And then there were, stuff that he didn't love. He had a very low batting average, was not getting on base a ton. The slugging wasn't great, and he had a lot of strikeouts. But entering camp, this is something I've noticed. Yeah. You're hearing that he's kind of retooling his swing and it's more level. And that's something I love. I want just Anthony Volpe to worry about a 2-strike approach this year. Stop worrying about home runs, worry about hitting for contact, any kind of contact, versus trying to focus on launch angles and stuff like that, because he's a 5'9" kid. He's not a 6'8" mammoth like an Aaron Judge. So if he can focus on hitting singles and doubles and walks, keep that swing level, and he's going to run into some home runs at Yankee Stadium anyway. So I'm very curious to see what we get out of Anthony Volpe.
Yeah, Sean Casey was interviewed by MLB Radio probably like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and he obviously working with the Yankees and all as a hitting coach last season, knows those guys, and I would love to defer to him on this, where he said he feels Anthony Volpe is going to have an even bigger not rookie season, sophomore season. The defense is there. I was actually surprised he won the Gold Glove. He looks more like a second baseman to me than the fluidity of a shortstop. But hey, he's going to stay there and won the Gold Glove. So those guys know better than I do. And like you said, I think you sent me that level swing, and I think that's a great thing. Get away from this exit velo garbage and raise that average up. And I think I want him to take the next step too, obviously, and I've got confidence in him. You look at everything, and on paper it looks great for him to have a successful, even better season than his rookie year. And I think part of his problem was he had a really slow start last year. And then it seemed he just couldn't pick up that batting average. And, as I'm a proponent of batting averages. I think it matters. So I think just get him off to a good start, and get that batting average will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I would love to keep him at the bottom of the order, let him prove it, let him work his way there. He has less pressure that way. And I think he'll have a good year. I'm take it slow with him. He's still raw. So I'm not expecting major things, but slow progression, I think, is a reasonable expectation. Third base, DJ LeMahieu. It seems like he's going to be the guy over there. He's a year older. He's had the foot injury the last couple years, but he did have a better second half last season. I want to know how much emphasis you put on that. Are you concerned that he's older now? His arm strength isn't as great at third base. You have Anthony Volpe, whose arm isn't the best for a shortstop. Are you concerned about the defense on that side of the infield? And are you concerned about DJ at the other side, on the other side of the field as well, hitting? So I want to know your thoughts on LeMahieu offensively and defensively.
I am a big DJ fan, but have been disappointed with him over the past couple of seasons with the injuries and just having that low average, which is so un-DJ like. But like you said, he's getting older. He's probably 34, maybe turning 35 this year. I don't know that for a fact, but it's concerning. And he is another one of those guys that I think that has to get off to a good start to the season and keep that average up, especially if he's leadoff. Right. They stuck with him at leadoff and over the past couple of years, and I think they should have moved him out of there earlier than they did. And he's got a lot to prove this year. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to hit the ball well. He's got to get back to clutch hitting. And I'm not too concerned with his defense because I think DJ is a really solid defender. Third base, arm strength is important there, but I think he's got enough to be manageable there. I've also been a really big Peraza fan, and yes. I don't know why. I just have always had this feeling that he's going to break out. Hasn't happened. I don't even know if he's going to be the backup infielder utility guy and move around, but he's there too. Would love to see him get some playing time as well, but I feel okay about DJ. I'm not real hopeful of it, so I really hope he proves me wrong and has a great solid season.
Yeah, man. Like the way I'm looking at that is like you have Judge, you've got Soto, that Glaber and Verdugo will hit at least at an average rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think all you're looking for is adequate production from at least one of your three veterans in DJ, Stanton, and Rizzo. I think just get one of them contributing, and then I think the Yankee lineup will figure it out. I'm not expecting all three to be productive again, but just get one of those guys being back to who he was, and I think we're okay. And if DJ is going to lead off, that's not a bad idea. Worst comes to worst, maybe they can platoon him with Verdugo and DJ sees lefties on leadoff days. So we'll see. Going to the outfield, you kind of talked about Verdugo already. You like that addition. If we go to center, obviously that's going to be Aaron Judge's spot for the meantime. He'll be playing center field. What do you think about Juan Soto coming here in right field? Are you concerned about his defense? Obviously, right field is the easiest field to play. What else do you think about Juan Soto? I love the durability. Obviously, the on-base percentages are great. The left-handed opposite field power is prestigious. I think he's going to help Aaron Judge in that lineup 2 and 3, whatever order you want to put him. So I'm excited for Juan Soto, obviously. I just want to get your final thoughts on Soto.
Yeah, Soto is, it's funny because obviously I knew Juan Soto, but I feel like last season in San Diego is when people really started picking apart his defense and saying, oh, he can't play defense. Maybe he hasn't ever been able to play defense. I just wasn't aware of it. So when I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's not ideal. Like you said, shorter, smaller area in Yankee Stadium to play right field. I think it's an important position in Yankee Stadium. And it's obviously great to have a defender. I always think about how Paul O'Neill was such a great defender in right field and made such amazing plays. But Juan Soto's bat, that is the whole reason he is here, because of that offense. And I think that offense can outweigh any poor defense. And, he's just got to be manageable out there. He just has to, make the catches you're supposed to make. Maybe he's not going to make the diving plays that Aaron Judge makes in right field, but it's his offense that we need him the most, in my opinion. So just be serviceable in right field and be an MVP caliber on the offensive side. And I'm happy.
Yeah.
But I love it. He brings excitement to it, to the whole team. He, he sounds like, and I don't even know, and him being a Boris client, sounds like he loves New York, wants to be in New York, and is just made for the premier stage of baseball, being New York Yankees. So I love it. I cannot wait. I am so stoked for this season, and he is the big reason why.
He looks so good in pinstripes, man. Every time I see one of those clips, I'm like, wow, this dude belongs here.
Yeah.
Years. I agree with Soto. I think if he hits, I don't care about the defense. It kind of reminds me of, when back when the Yankees had Gary Sanchez in the first 2 years, he was raking, and you heard nobody talk about the defense. But as he slowly started to regress, and that was catcher, granted, this is right field. It's a position that's less taxing defensively. So I think he'll be fine. Giancarlo Stanton is heading into camp in much better baseball shape. He looks lean. He is also older. He's, are you worried about the injury still? Are you worried about him? Or do you think he's going to bounce back because he's in much better shape? Do you think it's going to take some power away? Some people are talking about. What are your concerns with Stanton? Or maybe you have some optimism with him. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I guess some optimism that everyone's like, oh, he's so much leaner. He's in great shape. Hopefully that translates to being in baseball shape as opposed to, oh my goodness, my dogs are going crazy here.
Take your time.
You know why? Want to know why they're going crazy? Because they just pulled the leather off of that baseball, if you can see. So even they know it's baseball season.
That's awesome.
Hidden in the corner. So there you go. Very appropriate what we're doing here.
I love it.
But with Giancarlo, I say it all the time that, it's great to be in good shape, but you got to be in baseball shape like Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter, you'd look at the guy and you'd be like, oh, that guy's an athlete. He doesn't, he doesn't look muscular or whatever, but and goes back to what John Kruk always said, I'm not an athlete, I'm a baseball player. So I always felt it's very specific to do baseball specific training in the off season. And Giancarlo, other years seems like he was trying to go out for physique contests. And, it's great to be in shape, but if it's detrimental to staying on the field, then that's obviously not good. And that's what we've had with him and whether it's just him being made of glass or getting older, or it is being too muscular, who knows? I don't know, but I'm optimistic. I think he is a really good guy. I like him. I think he really cares. I think he's not a jerk who's like, I don't care, I'm getting paid. So I am optimistic. If it sacrifices some of the home runs, but he stays on the field and raises his average more and scores more runs, fantastic. If he can score from second base on a single that might turn into a double. I know he doesn't have the wheels to do it, but that play last season where he was out by like 20 feet was like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful about him every year, and I like him. So I'm always rooting for him. Hopefully what he's done in this offseason is going to translate to being healthy and not the usual, it's Giancarlo going on the IL annual thing. So we'll see.
I'm not as optimistic. I don't know. I'm still trying to see. The verdict is out. He seems like he lost a little bit of bat speed. The fastballs gave him problems last year. So I hope he could stay healthy. Can you play me 135 games? And I'm good with that. The good thing is we have some insurance. We got Grisham there as a fourth outfielder, and I want to hear your thoughts on potentially Jason Dominguez returning. It seems like he's making good progress. When do you think he'll be back? If he is back, what do you think the outfield alignment will look like when he's back? Because that's something I'm very curious about.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting. You know, obviously him getting injured was like is devastating at the time because here he was as looking like the savior of the Yankees, and then that comes out. So it's going to be real interesting what happens when he comes back, and it's going to be a logjam out there because you want to play him, but what happens if Verdugo's having a great year? What happens if Giancarlo stays healthy and is having a great year? There's so many question marks with him, and coming back from that, is he going to be able to even play the outfield when he comes back? Is he just going to be able to hit kind of like what Bryce Harper did when he had the same? So I don't know. It is really tricky, but and the other thing is want to look for him long term. Don't want him coming back and being like, okay, go in the out. If you feel good and just start going full on speed, and then he gets injured again. That obviously would be horrible. So I kind of looked at this season with him as, all right, he's not coming back until 2025, and we just got to deal with that. But now with them saying that it could be end of year type thing, I think it's going to have to see what's going on at that time and see who's doing what. Because, like I said, let's say Verdugo, could go either way with Verdugo. He might not be playing well, or he might be playing amazing. And then you don't want to take a guy like that out of the lineup if he's playing well. If he's not, and they're, he's, end of his contract, maybe they say, all right, we're going to release him and bring in Dominguez, and maybe he won't play the outfield to start and just start in with DHing. I don't know. There's so many question marks with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they now have the depth to where they can slow walk it with him. They don't have to rush him. But they're saying a lot of people expect June. That's crazy to me, but that'd be great if he's back. And it's good to have depth. I've mentioned before that if he does come back, and if they do plan on him being a part of the team, then you have options. You have Grisham, who's expiring. You've got Verdugo, who's on an expiring deal, so you can use them in trade if maybe one of them are expendable. So I'm very curious to see, because if he comes back and let's say they plan on him playing, it's you got four guys who are capable of starting, and there are only 3 spots out there. So who knows? Maybe Stanton will go down by then, and you have a DH spot open. But I'm excited for Dominguez. Like you, I'm going into the season expecting him to just be a bonus, if anything. This way I'm not, expecting much and then get let down. So I expect him to just take it slow. And if he is healthy, I think they're probably going to have him rehab in AAA for a while, which is probably smart. But before we move on to the rotation, do you have a batting order in mind, or a top 5 who you think the order will be?
Yeah, I obviously, we talked about, that lefty righty, and I would start the season with DJ. I like DJ. He can be a real productive leadoff hitter if he is on. So I would go DJ the righty, Soto the lefty, Judge at righty, Rizzo as a lefty, and then from there, maybe Glaber gets that next spot as a righty, and then if Wells is playing well, he can slot in there, or Verdugo, or you put in or maybe Stanton. You got to put Giancarlo up there if he's playing well. Maybe he goes after Rizzo. So I think there's a lot of flexibility with it, and I like that aspect, at least later in the order, because I'm a big proponent of trying to keep consistency at that beginning of the lineup. So I'd be real happy if it was DJ, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Verdugo, Glaber, Wells, and Volpe.
Yeah.
There's a sample lineup that I'd
Dude,
love to see.
you just listed basically 8 out of 9 of what I have.
Oh,
I have
yeah. What was the difference?
I have the same one I have DJ, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Glaber, and then I have Stanton, Verdugo, Volpe, Wells. So you got about 7 or 8 of them in there. So that's awesome. And yeah, your thoughts real briefly before we run out of time, because I don't have the friggin' Zoom Pro, but what are your thoughts on the rotation? Do you think, because to me the rotation is where the Yankees are going to go this year. I think the strength of their team is the bullpen and obviously the lineup, but the rotation is very much a wild card. And I think, like you, probably Carlos Rodon is probably the X factor. So everybody else, I think Cole's going to be great. I have a feeling Stroman's going to thrive here in New York. Nestor's a bit of a wild card. Schmidt, I think, will be fine. He might take a small step up, kind of like have a season similar to last year, minus April. But I think the big wild card is Carlos Rodon, who's seemingly added a cutter to his arsenal. So we'll see how that goes. So what do you think about the rotation, Carlos Rodon, and everything this year?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly my thoughts. Cole is Cole, and he has really been Mr. Consistency. His contract has been probably one of the best values for the Yankees, because besides, 2021, where he had the hamstring and we went into the playoffs and I think he wasn't right. Besides that, he's been a workhorse. And obviously last year, Cy Young Award winner. That is fantastic. Stroman, like you said, Stroman, Rodon, and Nestor, 3 wild cards.
Yeah.
I'd like to think Stroman. I'm in that camp to think that Stroman is going to thrive here and like really take the energy of New York and the fan base and have it, he's got a chip on his shoulder and pitch like that. Right. That would be fantastic. Obviously, Rodon, he's the real X factor in this whole rotation. I feel like he's gotta come back to his form, or else we're gonna need to look for pitching elsewhere. Can't do another year with him coming back, pitching ineffective, and he had maybe one quality good start last year. I can't even remember. Maybe some others, but just so sporadic with him on the injured list. And then Clark Schmidt, hopefully he doesn't have a lot of pressure towards the back of the rotation and can just, even if he takes a little step forward, because he was a quality starter last year. He, started off rough last season, but then he really turned it around. I was definitely one of the people saying, get rid of this guy. He's horrible. I hate him, but he proved me wrong and came back. Nestor, gotta hope that he is in shape, because I think you were the one who first brought it up that the pitch clock might have been affecting him and his stamina. So, and injuries too. He's had to handle some injuries. So, I feel good about the rotation, but not great.
All right. What do you think? Real quick before we wrap up, I want a final prediction of the American League East. How many wins will the Yankees end up with? What place will they place in?
All right. First place, I'm going to say 95 wins. I'm feeling real confident.
Oh, you're saying Yankees first place?
Yankees first place.
Okay.
5 wins. From there, I think it's going to be the Orioles, then the Rays, Blue Jays, Red Sox.
I like it, man. I like it. 95 wins.
Got a lot of confidence. I'm feeling really confident.
I'll tell you what, man. I started out a couple weeks ago saying 88 wins. That was pessimism. As we get deeper into camp, I'm close. I'm getting closer to that 95 where you are. So I'll give you that. Oh, hey, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, Rob. Love it.
All right. So that was that for this episode. Greg Gill from Yankee Crazy Podcast joined the show, giving his thoughts on the upcoming season for the Yankees. So I hope you enjoyed his input. I very much did. It's always nice to have Greg join the show. And once again, if you are unfamiliar with Greg Gill, he also has a podcast, Yankee Crazy Podcast, that is on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. If you are willing to listen to that, go check that out. Subscribe, download those episodes. But as for this one, episode 637 of BD4, that will do it. So I appreciate everybody who tuned in very much. And I'll see you in 638. But thank you for stopping by and sticking through all the way for those of you who did, if anybody did. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Greg, once again for joining the show. It's always a good time. And that's it for episode 637 of BD4. I'm your host, RJ, and I'll see you in the next one. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!